Okay, we are here with the Metalworks featured artist for February 2013, and it's Barra Xul. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Bill?
Right, so some people will recognize this guy for those who follow the monthly interviews and stuff like that, because we interviewed Select and Dismember, and Corey's the drummer for Select and Dismember. So you're actually the first person to get interviewed twice.
Something special.
You nervous about that? Or?
Nah.
All right, so give us the history of Barra Xul right back from the last recording project that you had.
Well, basically, with this, it's just another offset of cephalectomy, which I've done for, I don't know, I think I started that like 16 years ago or something like that. 94, somewhere around that.
So it was a little while.
Yeah, well, at first, too, we were under a couple different names, and we switched our names. I think we finally came to cephalectomy when 96, I think. 95 or 96, I can't remember. It's too long ago. So I've done that over the years, and in the beginning, it was actually a live band, and that, but then drummers are always fun to find. So that was always our problem. Like, we never could find anybody to keep with it or that could play fast enough, basically. And that, so as it progressed, like, at first, we had a couple different drummers, and then I took over drums, and then I got to the point where I couldn't even do what I wanted to do anymore. So then we got onto programming drums. And that, so I just program them the same way I play them, except obviously with a lot more precision. And that, so, and then basically, I mean, we did that up until, I mean, the last album we did was 2009. And then, I mean, me and Jason lived quite a distance from one another. And that, so, and then he moved even further away, and, you know, time schedules just get tighter and stuff. So, I mean, we just decided, you know, it was good to call quits on that. And I still wanted to do stuff, so, you know, I figured instead of keeping going with cephalectomy, and then, because you always, people in metal hate change, and that, so, I mean, anybody that liked it, I mean, I knew if I did something different, they'd be like, well, it's not cephalectomy, it's not the same thing, you know, so I was like, I'm just going to start fresh and do something new, so, it's essentially the same band, but, you know, with a few differences.
Okay, so where did the name come from?
I lifted it from the Necronomicon. And that basically, if you look up that, you can find a bunch of different words, and I just threw a couple of them together.
Now, my next question was, why are the lyrics horror-based? But if we could pan around here, there's a nice collection of vintage Nightmare on Elm Street and those kind of posters and all kinds of things. So, but whereas Cephalectomy didn't have horror-based lyrics, why did you decide to go that route with Barra Xul?
Well, even Cephalectomy still had horror. I mean, a lot of it is H.P. Lovecraft, which, you know, he's pretty much the master of horror. You know what I mean? There's so much mythos behind him and that. And so, I mean, it was not as direct. Like, this is based more off movies and stuff, you know. We did do a split CD with Cephalectomy, and that was a horror-based thing, because we wanted to do something different. And I always liked the way that turned out. And it's just something I'm more familiar with and comfortable to write about. Like, I can't write the stuff that Jason was writing. Like, his lyrics are just out there, you know. And so, I mean, I just went with what I was comfortable with, and being a big horror fan, it just seemed like the right thing to do.
Do you have an all-time favorite horror movie or series?
It gets tough. I always usually say The Evil Dead, and that, I mean, that's classic. That's one of the first horror movies that I saw, you know, when I was younger, that I was just like, wow, like, you know, this is over the top. And but at the same time, when I was very young, and that Nightmare on Elm Street really, like, Freddy was a big thing, you know, like, that was the horror franchise for me when I was, like, you know, between 5 and 8, you know, like, so I was into it pretty young. But yeah, my favorite is probably Evil Dead, if you're going for just straight up serious horror, which, if you know, some people wouldn't take that movie very seriously, right. But the first one was done seriously. You know, it was meant to be horror, whereas the sequels went and ended up being more comedy, oh yeah, I mean, Evil Dead 2 was horror comedy, and then Army of Darkness was just total cheese, you know what I mean? And I love those movies too, but as far as just horror, Evil Dead.
So are you psyched about the new Evil Dead coming out? Because it looks like it's gonna be like a modernized, but a little more on the horror side.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about it. I'm interested to see what they do with it. I mean, it helps that Bruce Campbell and Rob Tappert and Sam Raimi are producing it, and that. But given what Raimi has produced in the past, that doesn't mean much. And that's, so, you know, I'm hoping that it's over the top and, you know, they actually can do some justice to it, because I really don't like remakes much.
No, me neither. No.
But I know they're trying to make it, you know, pretty visceral and stuff. So, I mean, you know, it's hard to tell from trailers sometimes. And I mean, it looks promising for a remake and that, but I mean, it's hard to say. You never know. Hopefully.
Yeah, the previews are pretty good. Okay, so going back to the actual album, You played drums and guitar on the album?
I didn't play drums for
Okay.
Barra Xul.
Yeah.
And that no, it's programmed.
Okay.
And that just again my style of drumming, and that because that's what I that's how I play. But of course with a lot more precision. I mean, the stuff that's on there, like some of the double kick and stuff is just insane. You know what I mean? It's not stuff that I can do. And for this, I mean, I knew it's not a live band. You know, it's purely a recording project, so there wasn't really any need for me to do that. Because when I first decided to do it, I had considered playing drums for it, and I was like, well, then I got to find the place to record stuff, and it's a lot more work because drums are pretty much the hardest thing to record. Because obviously, so many pieces to it. You need good sound. It's the foundation of your sound.
There's a lot of unexpected elements that come up with recording drums too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I said, I'm just doing this for fun, something I enjoy doing. So, drum sounds have come a long way as far as like,
Oh, for sure.
and I mean, it's, I'm not using a drum machine. I'm not sitting there going, okay, here's a loop and play this.
Yeah.
I actually sit there and program every hit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm still getting what I want out of it. And it gives a little more, of a realistic sound. And that, of course, the ridiculous speeds kind of give it away sometimes. But, it's just...
There are guys that can do it, so you have to ask.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, too. This day and age, I mean, I'll listen to something, I'm like, is that real drums or is that fake? Because the technical precision of drummers now and speeds and stuff. Like, I mean, you look at a band like Flesh God Apocalypse. Oh, yeah. That drummer's nuts. Like, I mean, and he pulls it off flawlessly live. Like any videos I've watched them, I mean, no problem. You know. So, I mean, maybe if he was around, or somebody like that to do it for, I would consider real drums. But I mean, around here, all the best drummers that are around here are busy with other things.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if anyone's at that level or not. And it's hard to tell because obviously you play shows around here. Most of the venues don't exactly have the best sound. Yeah. And so, I mean, sound's a huge thing with metal. Like, I mean...
It's easy for everything to get lost, especially if you're playing someplace where there's too much reverb and stuff like that.
Oh, exactly. It just becomes a big wall of noise and that, you can't really distinguish stuff. And I get kind of picky about that stuff. Like, I like good sound and clean sound. I'd rather take the time to make something sound good, than I guess be practical about it. And just be like, well, we'll deal. So
if the opportunity ever came up, though, would you be considering possibly having Barra Xul, like even just like a one-time live performance, get everybody, like get a bunch of people together, kind of make it a one-time thing?
I can't say I wouldn't consider it. I mean, like I said, the drummer thing is definitely an issue. Yeah. The big issue with that, too, would be playing guitar and doing vocals at the same time. Sure. I would pretty much have to get somebody else to do my parts. Like, I could do some of them, but obviously when you're playing guitar doing one thing and you got the vocals doing something completely different, like where I haven't played live that much, and that it would take me a while to catch on to that. So it would be a lot of work, especially just for a one-off or something, But if, I mean, I wouldn't put it out of the books, you know what I mean? It's just, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I've got Select for that. I get to play drums and do that, and, I've helped write a bit with that, and I don't know. It's just not something I'm going to pursue. I can't say I wouldn't do it if the opportunity was there, but...
All right, so you had a lot of guest stars on this CD as well. What was the selection process for that? Just some friends that you knew their style would fit what you were looking for?
Yeah, basically, I just asked some people I knew around the scene and stuff, and people I'm friends with, and, I just like the idea. In the past, I've had guest vocals on Cephaloectomy stuff, but the way that worked is we would usually just have someone do different parts throughout the whole album. Right. And I said, well, let's mix it up a little bit, and I thought it'd be interesting to have one guest vocalist on each song, just to kind of give a unique dynamic to each song, because everybody's got different voices, stuff like that. Right. I love lots of voices in music. Like, a lot of people I find with music, they're more about the music, you know what I mean? Vocals are kind of just there a lot of the time. And I'm big on, like, I like a lot of vocals. I like a lot of different sounds and stuff. And that, so, I just found guys around that I knew and thought would be up for it. And, if it was convenient for them, they came and did it. And thankfully, I got enough people to make it work.
Were there any performances that were better than what you expected, that you listened to it afterward and were just thinking, holy crap, this is amazing?
Do you mean, like, vocally?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean... Everybody did a really good job, really. Like, even I had a couple people that haven't really done anything before, and that, no recordings, and they're not in band, stuff like that, and I just kind of took a chance, and it was like, okay, you can actually do this, everything went really smoothly, because you get some people, too, don't like doing stuff in front of somebody else, which I wonder, because, you're sitting there recording them, and they're like, what's he expect of me, and, that kind of thing. But, no, everybody's really easygoing, and, I don't know, I was really happy with everything.
Cool. So basically, you had produced the CD as far as, like, actual calling the shots, I take it?
Oh, yeah, it's my baby. So, I just The only thing I didn't do on it was master it.
Yeah, and who did that?
Dan Swano, and that they're in Sweden. Which, if you don't know who Dan Swano is, he was part of Bloodbath, one of my favorite bands, Edge of Sanity, who are no longer together, but they've got a pretty good catalog, and he does a lot of projects. I mean, like Omnium Gatherum is another band I like a lot. It's melodic death metal. I mean, he produces them, mixes and actually masters that, and he's done a ton of stuff over the years. And being a bit of a fanboy, I just thought, hey, starting fresh, something different would be kind of cool if I could, kind of bring another element to it. Yeah. And, I've never been able to get the sound I want out of a recording. Yeah. So, I mean, it was definitely worth it because this is the closest I've gotten to getting the sound I want.
Well, it does sound really good, and the feedback has been really good. Have you been a little bit pleasantly surprised by the feedback, or were you comfortable enough that you knew that you had a decent product here?
Well, like any band, you usually get, you always get people who like it and people who don't.
Right.
And I really haven't got too much negative feedback with this. Like, I think I had one guy, was like, is that the final production? And that kind of, I guess it wasn't up to par for him. But
there's always that one, yeah.
But, I mean, other than that, people have been pretty nice about it. I mean, you never really know what people think because, obviously, especially,
friends, yeah.
Like that. I mean, they're not, oh, you suck, Actually, I do have some friends that would say that, so, I haven't got any of that, which is good. Yeah. But,
Now, Barra Xul was actually just signed to a record deal, like not huge, yeah. but I mean a metal record label. Tell us how that came about.
Well, we signed with CDN Records, and that, which is run by Craig Newman, and over the years he's actually helped us push a bunch of cephaloectomy stuff, and that Roland knew him, and when we released like Sign of Chaos and stuff like that, he took some copies of that and pushed it for us and stuff, and then when I got Eclipse in the Dawn, did Eclipse in the Dawn, he pushed that too, and I mean, when you're not a distro, it's very hard to push stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. You get people who hear of you by chance or, friends like that buy stuff from you, but I mean, if you're sitting on, 500 or 1,000 CDs and you don't play live, it's hard to push that. Yeah. So, I mean, he was great help for that, so I've always wanted to just do stuff myself. I like being in control of everything, and that, so this time around, though, I was like, well, I'm actually happy with the way things turned out for the most part. So I was like, it'd be nice to actually get it out there. And starting fresh is always hard. Yeah. I mean, at least the cephaloectomy, we did stuff for years, and that. So I mean, you built your fan base. And there's still a lot of those people I'm sure who have no idea what Barra Xul is.
Probably, yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll talk to Craig and that, and see if this is something that he'd be interested in, and that. And he said, yeah. And that's so I was like, okay, well, let's do this and that way. Because there are definitely still people who buy CDs. Sure. I promote that I don't bother with CDs and stuff like that, just digital, because it's easier. I mean.
Yeah, no, I tried to get a Barra Xul CD, and this guy just kept saying, just download it.
Well, it's not even worth the money for the bands most of the time, especially with the small pressing, because when you're only doing small pressing, you're not getting as good of a deal, of course, right?
Yeah, because it still costs anywhere from $7 to $10 per CD.
Exactly, which I think ours worked out to about $7 a CD. So once you do that and you take the money to get mailers and actually mail stuff out, you've spent more money than you're charging. Yeah. You can't sell a CD really for more than $10 these days. I think I've got when I put them up, I think it was 13, like 10, and then 3 to cover shipping. So I might just be breaking even, but then you got to give copies to everybody who did stuff. I mean, you don't have to, but I mean.
Oh yeah, it's just polite to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're part of it. I mean, I know if I was part of something, I'd want a copy of it, and that's so. I mean, I lost track of
thought now. Now, would you ever do any kind of music video for any of the Barra Xul songs?
I'm planning to, yeah, and that it'll be something fun and cheesy, of course. Because I mean, to do anything really good, I mean, you gotta have some money to sink into it. I'm not making any money on this, and that. So to put a lot of money into something, I mean, someday I hope to do that. I'd love to do something over the top, and just make people go, "What the hell?" And I had some plans for that in the past, but stuff just never panned out. So we're actually. We've been planning to do a video for a while. I was actually, when you came in, just editing a little bit of stuff, and that, I always try to find something simple I can do. So it doesn't cost a lot of money, but hopefully, still has some effect, and that way, it's great for promotion.
Well, even the Select and Dismember video, I mean, it was just a straight performance, but it was better than a lot of videos I've seen.
Well, you get a lot of people that do really bad videos. Like some videos, I'm just like, who did this? You know, especially and I can't say nothing because I've been there. If you look at some of the old Seth stuff, I mean, it's camcorder and a bunch of kids running.
But it's what you had at the time, right?
Well, exactly, right? I mean, but now, I mean, everything's HD. I mean, you can get cameras for cheap and stuff like that. I mean, there's no reason not to do anything. I mean, people love visuals. Like if someone said, "Here, listen to the song," or "Go watch the video for it," I'm gonna go watch the video for it. That draws my attention more than just saying, because there's so many bands out there too. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think one thing is if you actually take the time to do a video and stuff like that, it shows you're actually trying a little harder too, or some bands just like, whatever, we don't care kind of thing.
Okay. So, obviously you're going to be continuing on. There's going to be more Barra Xul recordings. If you could have anybody in the world to guest star on a Barra Xul album, or a couple people, who would come to mind right off the bat?
Do you mean vocals or just anything?
Anything. Like if somebody could come in and do a part.
It would pretty much have to be vocals, because, I mean, I write everything for the... Well, I can't say that. Scott writes his own bass stuff and that.
Right.
But, I mean, initially I'll write the songs, and then Scott will contribute some riffs and stuff like that, and then I'll take it to him, and, I just let him do what he wants. So it would pretty much have to be a vocal thing. I mean, it's hard to pick somebody. I guess just because it's somebody that hasn't done anything in forever, and I think people would be kind of surprised, and obviously due to my influences, it'd be cool to have somebody like Sylvain Hood, something, come out and do something just because, nobody's heard of him doing anything in years. You know what I mean? Not anything since early Cataclysm. And obviously that's a big influence for me. That was always a huge influence for Cephalectomy, and that, which, I mean, I don't think we really have that sound so much now, and that, but the influence is definitely there. And I love crazy vocals. You know what I mean? So it's just, he's somebody that would suit,
And throw a totally different dynamic on a song.
Oh, exactly. It makes a big difference, I mean, you can have something that's just going along with the music and get one feel. You get somebody else that's cutting something up a different way, and it totally changes the feel of something. So, I mean, that'd be my number one. I mean, obviously anybody like Lord Worm or, Frank from Suffocation or any of those guys, any of my influences, basically, you would never say no to that.
All right, so obviously don't get a CD, but download it.
Get a CD when it's actually released.
Out on the don't get one now. Wait until it comes out on CDN Records, and we'll put the download link on, or at least the address on the bottom.
It's actually not up anymore.
Oh, it isn't.
No,
okay, so I won't bother with that.
You can listen to all the songs on YouTube and Bandcamp. You can find them all for listening to that. But we actually removed the download link just to kind of
try to promote the CD sale a little bit later.
It's a little unfair for the label if we just have everything out for free. It's going to make it hard for them to sell anything. And at this point, I mean, if you haven't already gotten it, you're too slow.
And it's not going to be remastered for them or anything. It's going to be the exact same release.
Oh yeah, it'll be the. There's not really too much more I could do to it, really. And I mean, if you do something like that, then you're always going to get people that are like, well, why didn't you do that in the first place? Or now I've got this copy and I don't like it as much. Or, why'd you change it? I like the original better.
Yeah, I've had times where I like the original, probably because I heard it first. And
it makes sense for bands that have, old albums and stuff like that really have aged over time, due to older production.
But even then, I find I'll still like the original better.
Well, exactly, especially if you're brought up on it. And that, like, anything I heard when I was younger, and that, if they change with that, it's like, oh, it's not the same. It's not the same, But myself, if I find a band that, I newly get into and go back to listen to the old stuff, sometimes I find it hard to get into the older stuff because it is an older production. And that, so for me, being new to that band, I don't mind, something that's remastered. But I think that's the only time you really should remaster anything, if you're going to at all. And, I mean, you do get some people that remaster their stuff and the sound completely changes, and it's not always for the better. And that. But if you can keep the same sound, like mostly bring your levels up and stuff like that, or clean the sound up a little bit, I have no problem with that.
All right, so look out for the Barra Xul album, and the album title is
In Darkness We Wait.
Right on. And it's going to be out soon on actual CD that he does want you to buy now. And I'll definitely pick up a copy. So Barra Xul Mettalworx.